Okay, and we are live. Welcome to a new episode of All Things Xbox Podcast. Once again, I got Logan with me. Logan, how are you doing this week?
I'm doing good. I'm glad to be back. Life's going good. Lots of good basketball on lately with it being March. Yeah, I'm having a great time. How about you, man?
I'm good. The weather is still crappy, so no change there. Wrestling is actually picking up, which again, I've just got into it this year. Have no idea who any of the people on screen are, but it's entertaining. As someone that hasn't watched it for 20 years, it's funny seeing all the drama go online because John Cena basically turned into a heel and made fun of a kid last week on Raw. And the whole internet rallied behind this kid, saying that you shouldn't have acted like this. And he's playing it up, but the villain arc, I'm really enjoying it. It's nice to enjoy wrestling again, I must say. But yeah, before we get into all the topics and stuff, just for a laugh, I decided to say how much do WrestleMania tickets cost. Oof. So for a 2-day pass, because WrestleMania is apparently a 2-day event now, £21,000.
Good grief.
Yeah, I was actually shocked because, obviously I'd want ringside, but like £21,000 for tickets, no, that you could get a car for that. But that aside, it's been a good week. Logan wasn't here last week, so we'll go over a bunch of stuff later on in the show. But Logan, what have you been playing this week?
Yeah, for games I've been wrapping up Avowed. I'm like not to get too spoilery, but I'm in a section called The Garden. I'm towards the end of that, and then there's the final showdown. So that's what I'm doing in Avowed. Wash Sim is, my chill game. And I'm getting excited for a few new releases that are about to drop this week and coming soon, which they're one of our topics, so I'll talk about them later. And yeah, mainly, honestly, I haven't been gaming much like the past week or two with March Madness going on.
Oh yeah.
Like, for those who aren't familiar, March Madness is this grand tourney that happens once a year where 68 teams get invited and have a bid. And it's a single elimination tournament, and they whittle it down until there's one team left and they're the champions. And it seems to be one of the few things that America unifies and accepts as universally good. So it's just a great time of year. I love basketball, so having basketball on all day is just like glorious to me. So been doing a lot of that. Binging some movies from my backlog that I hadn't gotten around to. Saw some older stuff that had been sitting there for years and some recent stuff. And then, finished up Severance Season 2, which was mind blowing. If people don't have Apple Plus, you're missing out. Like, especially if you're a sci fi fan. They have so many good sci fi shows and movies on Apple Plus and other stuff. Like, if you're into like the idea of news anchor shows or like stuff like that, they have the morning show. Like they have all kinds of dramas, comedies, anything you can imagine. Like it's a really good streamer. So I've been doing that, movies, a few games, and lots of basketball. How about you? Have you been dutifully grinding away at your backlog?
Yeah, I'm trying to make a dent in the backlog. Before I get into the backlog, I want to mention on the Apple Plus thing you mentioned, because
Hmm.
I've always been this person where I'm like, I'm just gonna subscribe to Netflix and Disney Plus. Those two are good for me. But with
Hmm.
all the sci-fi stuff on Apple Plus or Apple TV, whatever the hell it's called, I decided to check it out. And let me tell you, you were right. That app is, there's so much good sci-fi there, man. Like, as someone, like, I've been crawling through a desert, thirsty for sci-fi, right? And then
Oh,
there's,
they're the Oasis, baby.
yeah,
You got just go to Apple.
I have been, because like I think the last great sci-fi show, in my opinion, was The Expanse.
Hmm.
And it's just been a long time. So, like, to go on there and they have things like Foundation. That's some outlandish, out there sci-fi, and I love it. There's 4 seasons
Oh,
of
it's
that.
so good.
Yeah, so good. And this new thing, oh, well, it's not really new, and it's been out for years. I had no idea it existed. It's called For All Mankind.
Oh, that is so good as well.
I never even heard of this before. And yes, for people joining the show, this is a gaming podcast, but I want to talk about this quickly because this is a sci-fi show that is basically about the space race in the 60s, and how, like, it just didn't end when America made it to the moon. It kept on going, and it's so interesting. Like, it has to be one of my top 25 favorite shows of all time now. And then the Silo, which is, the best way to put it, is a more adult version of Fallout. That's the best way to describe it. But yeah, good sci-fi. But when it comes to the games I've been playing, I've been trying to make a dent in my backlog, because we'll get into AC Shadows in a moment, because, like, I really want to get to that, but I can't keep opening up these big, massive games, and just the backlog I have at the minute is ridiculous. So anyway, I've been playing Death Stranding. I'm on chapter 12, I believe. That game is nuts. I said around about chapter 2 a few months back that I can't see how the game can get any crazier. Yeah, no, I was wrong. That game is crazy. I will say this, though. There's a particular line in this entire game that is the cringiest line ever said in a video game.
Kojima gonna Kojima, man.
Yeah, and I looked online, and it turns out this was a big thing when Death Stranding first came out. There's this, and I won't even say what the line is, but it has something to do with Mario. And it is, like, I had to literally pause the game and walk away. It was so cringeworthy. But outside of that one line, it's been a fantastic game. And, over the past month or so, people have been asking me, like, can I recommend it to them? But you can't really describe Death Stranding, can you? You can't call it a third-person shooter, even though it has third-person shooting mechanics. You can't call it a stealth game, even though it has stealth.
It's an experience.
Yeah, it's an experience, and it's like, if people can get it, it's 50% off every so often. If people want a wild, weird game, that's it. It's really fun. I've also been trying to make a dent in Avowed. What can I say? Great combat. Just did a mission last night where I kind of had to retrieve an artifact that was kind of protected by this forest queen.
The Delmgin, yeah.
Yeah, and it turns out that you could completely avoid that fight if you don't kill all of her minions, which obviously I didn't know going in that was a thing. So that was an excruciatingly difficult boss battle. Maybe I wasn't leveled high enough, but I got wrecked so many times. I had to try and cheese that boss fight, and it just doesn't have many opportunities to cheese. But what a game. I'm probably going to be playing it for the next week or two, just the way I go through games. And another game I've been playing, and I don't know if you've played this yet, Logan, it's called Mullet Mad Jack.
Oh, it's on my quick queue to play. It looks awesome.
Yeah, it's... The best way to describe it is it's set in an alternate 80s-inspired future where basically everyone has the attention span of a walnut. So you need dopamine hits every 10 seconds to live. And
sounds like TikTok the game.
It basically is. It basically is. So basically, to get these dopamine hits, you have to get kills. And every time you get, a kill, you get another 10 to 15 seconds, depending on what difficulty you have. And if the timer runs out, you die. So it's a really cool take on a dystopian look on society. And I think a lot of people love it. And the thing is, if timers bother people, you can turn that off. Like, so if people just want to go through it like a, 1990s Doom game, you can, no biggie. It's a very gory game. Its soundtrack is incredible. It's synthwave. I absolutely adore synthwave. It's like it's a genre most people don't even know it exists, and it's amazing. And that's in Game Pass. I highly recommend it to people. They need to play it. And I've also been playing some older games. We're obviously going to be talking about backwards compatibility in a bit, but I've also been playing Deus Ex Human Revolution. That game is timeless. I've loved that game since the day it came out. And It's probably one of the best RPGs ever made. You know the funny thing about that game? Like, Logan, did you ever play Human Revolution?
I never got around to that one. I played the one right before the director's cut one.
Oh, okay.
On 360. Yeah.
Oh no, that was Human Revolution.
Oh, okay. Then yeah, I have. Okay. Uh, wait, there something Mankind,
Yeah,
and
that
then
that was the
there
Xbox
was.
One game.
Okay, that's what I was getting confused. So yes, I have played this one. Okay, yeah.
Yeah, Mankind Divided. That was a good game, but it has its issues. But Human Revolution, that game's bloody timeless. Even though it is backwards compatible, I do hope Embracer actually, embrace their IP and actually put out a remaster because, like, look, it it needs some sort of treatment when it comes to a resolution enhancement. It's a very blurry game with what they do in that game and the forced perspective and stuff. But all in all, it's a fun game. What can I say? And you know what? We'll get into all the topics now because we literally have like 20. And for people joining the show now, if you live in the UK or Europe, the clocks haven't gone forward yet. So if you live in the UK or Europe, the show is an hour earlier. And, next week, if you live in the UK or Europe, it's going to be going back to normal, thankfully. I'm one of the few people in the country that lives on basically US time. So when the clocks go forward, everyone complains, but I'm actually there being thankful. Like, thank you. But yeah, so if you're enjoying the show, please like, share, and subscribe. Really, YouTube's kind of weird lately when it comes to sharing our content, especially with the whole time zone difference and clocks going forward thing. Anyway, you know what? We'll talk about Assassin's Creed because this game, I don't know if people have been paying attention, but Assassin's Creed's kind of been in the news for the past year. Uh, Basically, constantly. And, I'll get this out of the way first. Like, my history with Assassin's Creed is I absolutely adore the franchise. Right? I talk about Mass Effect all the time. I can, basically prove on a daily basis that I have an obsession with that trilogy. But Assassin's Creed, I adore that franchise. Right? It's had its ups and downs over the years, but like I have basically every collector's edition going up to Unity. A lot of statues, and let me tell you, I love the setting. I even like the futuristic stuff. It's a franchise that I go back to all the time, and I just enjoy it. And they all aren't perfect, Assassin's Creed 2 is one of my favorite games of all time. It's far from perfect. Assassin's Creed Valhalla, gorgeous game, great combat, but I put 90 hours into that game, and it felt like it was never going to end. That game had huge success with the Xbox Series XS and PlayStation 5 launch. It's because it was the open world game to play that year. Odyssey, beautiful game, huge continent, great combat, weaker story, but like I love the franchise. I even had Assassin's Creed Bloodlines. That was the PSP game, which was literally a follow up to the first Assassin's Creed game. Let me tell you, trying to play a 3D Assassin's Creed game with one analog stick, terrible. Whoever designed the controls for that game, like, they need a medal for trying to even get that game to work with one analog stick. But it's a franchise I love, and Assassin's Creed Shadows is going to be a game I get to next. And like, look, the game looks fantastic. Visuals out of the gate, beautiful. This is the first quote unquote next gen Assassin's Creed game, and it shows. You have weather that interacts with the character in a realistic way, much like Red Dead Redemption. And people could say, and I've seen a lot of this in the past 24 hours on my feed, that this game is doing things that a game from 2018 did. I don't see it that way. Excuse me. I see it as in, like, Red Dead Redemption achieved such a high bar that it's basically gonna it's set a gold standard for how an open world game should be, and it still has that title, but like nobody else has really tried this stuff, and this does have some of those elements. So snow is rendered in 3D and it melts in real time. You have dynamic seasons where the whole game looks completely different depending on the season. And, it has destructible environmental stuff, such as, plants, trees, some buildings and materials and stuff. And it's like, it's small things like that that I think elevate Assassin's Creed to a whole new level. Where, like, look, again, I've been a fan since the original, but those games have been static beyond belief, where there's not really many different things in the environment that interact with each other. It all feels scripted when it does happen, and like it's needed some innovations in the stealth area for years. Like I'll put it like this: I tried to play through Assassin's Creed 4 a few months ago, and you can't crouch in that game. Right? So it feels really weird trying to play that game because you instinctively want to crouch because it's a stealth game. But they put the stealth in with Assassin's Creed Unity, but with Shadows it has all these cool new features. And again, I haven't played it yet, but I've been following the game for a long time. But like being able to attach yourself to a ceiling if you're playing as Nauri, the stealth character, being able to swing on this like rope-like device to get to different areas. As a stealth fan, this looks like it's got all those things I've been wanting in the franchise for years. And the sales so far, apparently they have had over 2 million players in I think like 48 hours. And honestly, it looks like it's going to be a success. It's currently number one on the Xbox Store in the UK. I think it's also number one in the US on the Xbox Store. I think it's the same on PlayStation as well. And all in all, it looks like Ubisoft have a hit. So, like, I'm not one of these people, but I pray for Ubisoft's downfall. Like, they have a lot of games, a lot of franchises that I absolutely love. I talk about Splinter Cell all the time, even though we don't have a new Splinter Cell game. I talk about Ghost Recon all the time, even though I doubt we will actually get a Ghost Recon game for a while. Watch Dogs is underrated but underutilized by Ubisoft. Rayman Legends, it's incredible. So much fun. And they have all these IPs I just want them to bring back, So to me, like, them having a huge success like this and they actually marketing it, that's a big win. We're obviously going to be talking about Ubisoft later on with the whole Microsoft thing, but honestly, out of the gate, this game looks like it's doing well, and as a fan of that Avatar game that never got any marketing, it's actually got some eyes on it, Like, Logan, what's your take on the whole Assassin's Creed situation? Because it's been in the news non-stop for a year. I know you aren't really a big fan of Assassin's Creed, but you're still interested in some of the titles. Like, what's your take?
Well, I'm glad it's doing well. Like you said, for the last year or two, this game had been one of the like poster childs of grifter movement
Yeah.
basically. And there had been a lot of, cultural hubbub about it. People trying to make connections to things, trying to say they're doing this or that or whatever, drumming up, political outrage and all this stuff outside of just the game itself had been going on. But and then Ubisoft's been kind of in a rough spot lately. They were really needing a win, and it sounds like this Hail Mary paid off. And it sounds like it's doing very well. I'm glad it's successful. As somebody who loves, like some of the older Assassin's Creeds, I've always been curious about the idea of it in Japan. And so that being in Japan is really cool, where you can play as a ninja or as a samurai is really, really cool. And I love just Japanese setting and culture and combat and all this stuff. So I'm gonna check it out down the line. It won't be like a soon play for me because I've got quite a backlog and some other stuff I'm more excited for. But it is one that has my attention and I do plan to pick up at some point. And it's also cloud playable and Xbox Anywhere, which is a big deal. It's one of the biggest new games that have gone day one to both of those.
Yeah, I think that's really good that people can play it day one via the cloud. I mean, more the better. Um, but yeah, this Assassin's Creed game, like, we're not going to talk about the whole like controversy around the game because I think it's just been it's been overplayed. Everyone knows the deal. Everyone knows what we've seen online. You open social media one day and there's someone popping off about something, and like the game itself looks fantastic. The gameplay looks great. I mean, I I've talked about before. Like, I love these games. I've played every Assassin's Creed game. I had the Assassin's Creed game that was on iOS the first one. Didn't play that good, to be honest, but I had it anyway. And this looks like a big step forward that the franchise needed. Now, I will be wondering where the franchise goes next, because allegedly this is the last RPG Assassin's Creed.
Mm-hmm.
So like, who knows what'll happen? And the thing is, this year we still meant to get an Assassin's Creed 4 remake. So, like, hey, I wish the best for them. Again, Ubisoft. A lot of people kick them while they're down, and they do mess up a lot. But they have some amazing IP. Like, if they can get back to how they were in like 2010, 11, 12, 13 even, I think they'll have like continued success. And they really need a big win. Like Assassin's Creed, like in the UK especially, like it's a very popular franchise, and they've had several Assassin's Creed games that have sold over 10 million copies. Assassin's Creed Shadows apparently has a credit length of over 2 hours long. Because they have I think it's like 14 different studios that work on the game. Ubisoft has almost 20,000 developers like under their wing, and like that's a lot of developers. So like they need this to be a huge hit. I do think it'll actually be one of those games where it will sell over 10 million copies. Because Assassin's Creed has a long tail, and look, when it came to, and obviously this is because of the pandemic and stuff, but like when Assassin's Creed Valhalla came out, Ubisoft was actually shocked by Assassin's Creed Odyssey sales, because during the first lockdown there was a massive spike in Assassin's Creed Odyssey sales because people just wanted to go outside and they chose that game, and that worked out really well for them. Like that's why in the future Assassin's Creed is going to be more of a platform rather than individual titles. Because when the pandemic happened, Assassin's Creed Odyssey wasn't just selling, but the gold edition was selling, the season pass was selling, and expansions. Like people were craving more of this world. So like the way Ubisoft's gonna go forward with these games, and they may include Shadows, that hey, we're gonna release this Assassin's Creed game in 2025, and we're gonna give it expansions for years to come, because Assassin's Creed traditionally only gets expansions for the first year. And they've learned with, Odyssey and Valhalla, like, even though I do have my my rants about Valhalla, it got a lot of support after launch. A lot of support. To the point where there's basically a standalone side game called Assassin's Creed Valhalla, I think it's called Ragnarok, and it's basically a whole different game in a whole different world where you basically have superpowers. And now I think about it, that's the only Assassin's Creed game I've never played, which I may have to get at some point. But like, I love seeing them get this win. Before we continue, I have the first super chat of the day by Nick Wenland. Thank you very much for the $4.99. He says, I played a bit last night. It's awesome. And I love hearing this. Like, we've all seen the drama online, people being angry over video games all the time. But Assassin's Creed, traditionally, it's been a great franchise, In my opinion, and I'll move Valhalla to the side, my only, I'd say, negative moment for Assassin's Creed was actually Syndicate. The one set in London. Like, you'd think I would have loved that game. The characters in that game, but I just did not like the mission structure. I felt like they padded out the open world with just boring things to do. It didn't feel fun to me. So they had like an interesting like character setup and possibly a story, but like asking a player what they thought of each mission and rating it out of 5 stars, like I wasn't being paid for Q&A. I bought the game. I wanted to enjoy it, and it felt like work. Obviously, they've learned because they don't do that anymore. But like when it comes to Shadows, it looks fantastic. I think it's going to be a huge game. It's obviously going to sell well for the rest of the year. It will be interesting to see what the support is like, because this game was originally going to have a gold edition or season pass where you buy it and you get 2 expansions. Well, they changed it that if you pre-ordered the game before launch, you actually get the first expansion for free. So no matter what people say about Ubisoft, that is a pro-consumer move. And honestly, their expansion's pretty big. I've had Ubisoft expansions before where they are almost the size of entire games. So people are going to be getting a lot of content with that. And also, if people don't know, the game's also available in Ubisoft Plus, where basically when you subscribe to that, you get the I think it's the Ultimate Edition version of the game, where it comes with the digital art book and all that stuff, soundtrack. All in all, it's a good deal. But happy to hear more people like Assassin's Creed, because look, there's a lot of people online that revel in, hating on a game. Like, look, I've seen it this past week. Assassin's Creed comes out, and people are already setting their eyes on Doom: The Dark Ages to try and pick that game apart. Right? It's happening. It's happening with every major AAA release now, and one, it's tiring, and it's like this is how these people only get attention. It's like they want to bring a game down, and they find a new target every single game. And everything I've heard about Assassin's Creed so far sounds fantastic. Will it maybe have some game mechanics I don't like? Probably, but that's been the case with every game. Like, hell, I've talked about how much I love Assassin's Creed. Do you know that first Assassin's Creed game? The very first one. The only way you can take out a target is by standing right next to the target. So you couldn't do it from benches. You couldn't shoot poison darts. You couldn't jump from walls to assassinate targets. No, you literally just had to walk up to a character and do it right there. That's why Assassin's Creed 2 felt like such a generational leap, because you could assassinate from hay bales. You can jump from walls onto targets, jump from roofs onto targets. You could sit on a bench and take out a target, like all sorts. And you had all these gadgets. And I think it's been such a long time since Assassin's Creed has had that jump in not just visual fidelity but gameplay mechanics. Because when they switched to being an RPG in 2017, to me they lost a lot of that focus on stealth in the Assassin's Creed Brotherhood and the Templars and stuff, and hopefully with that it retains some of that stuff. From what I've seen, the stealth looks super cool, and Ubisoft stealth can be so satisfying, really. You know what? We've been talking about Assassin's Creed for a while. Logan, have you got anything else to say before we change topic?
Hey, I'm back. Sorry about that. Internet's been real spotty.
Oh, it's alright. I was just saying, do you want to say anything about Assassin's Creed before we change the topic?
Oh, just that I think it's really cool. I'm glad it's doing well. Remember the rumor had been for like the last year or so that the next one or one of the other ones they were working on was going to deal with like witches and
Yeah.
werewolves and like folklore stuff.
Yeah, that's that might be happening, I think, either next year or the year after. But as far as I know, it's still happening.
'Cause that sounds cool to me.
Yeah, like people are on the fence when it comes to this stuff. Like, I think the mystical stuff is perfectly fine for Assassin's Creed. I mean, hell, in Assassin's Creed Brotherhood, you fight the Pope. Like, it's fine to have some of this stuff, and the Pope has superpowers. So I'm perfectly fine with it. If it fits the world, I don't care. They can throw in whatever they want, like, as long as it's fun and it makes sense for what that game is. Yeah, I think Assassin's Creed Hex, it'll be fun. It will be interesting to see what that game's like, because again, it's not going to be an RPG. So we'll see how that turns out, but we'll probably hear more about that next year. It's a while away. Anyway,
What if they made like a old school God of War type Assassin's Creed game, like almost like a hack and slash?
I mean, look, even though it wouldn't be much of an Assassin's Creed game, I'd probably still buy it because I like the franchise. I mean, whatever way they want to take the franchise, I'm interested in, because, like, Assassin's Creed, it's been around since 2007. It was one of those titles that, like, look, on the 360, that was impressive back in the day. But let me tell you, there's nothing to do in that game. You can run around and collect these, like, ribbon things or take out targets. There's nothing else to do in that game. And it's setting beautiful. The tech in that game with the crowds. Like, but if they want to try something different, have spin-offs, because, like, as of now, if I remember correctly, there's 8 Assassin's Creed games in the works. So, like, if they want to come out with something different, I'll try it. Why not? As much as I talk about Valhalla being boring, I'm kind of gaslighting myself into wanting to try the spin-off for Valhalla, the Ragnarok game. Now I hate myself. Um, but yeah, I mean, I'll try anything for Assassin's Creed. I just want the franchise to be huge and successful again. Like I never even mentioned this, but Unity was absolutely broken at launch, like to the point where it became a meme of the main character where he didn't have a face. Right, I didn't actually have that bug, but like a lot of people did, and like that game damaged the Assassin's Creed franchise. It really did. And they tried giving people a free expansion. The expansion was terrible, and now it's regarded as having the best parkour in the franchise, and the parkour in that game is incredible. So like I'm just wanting them to have a win, and Avatar: Frontiers of Pandora. I keep talking about how that's a great game. Ubisoft never talks about it. It was put out to die, and that game had the potential to be a huge success. You would have had all the Far Cry fans on board. You would have had Avatar fans on board, and they just didn't do anything with it. And it's such a shame because the potential there is ridiculous, and it will never get a sequel. Putting it out there, I don't see that game ever getting a sequel. I think they were relying on the Avatar fan base just buying it just because they like Avatar, and like most Avatar fans probably don't even own game consoles. But that's a rant for another day. You know what? Since the last show, there was actually the Future Game show, and I must say, it was actually pretty good. So there's a lot of games that are coming to Xbox at the show, and I'll go over all the games quickly. Like Logan, did you get to watch Future Game show at all?
I did not, but was that the one where Painkiller was announced?
Yeah, that's the one.
Okay, I saw that announcement. I haven't seen all the others though.
Okay, so I'll quickly run down the games because there's a lot of cool stuff there, and for some reason my PC is freezing. There we go. Anyway, I'll go over the list quickly. So Expedition 33 had a brand new trailer. Honestly, I think that's going to be one of the biggest games of the year. It looks
100%.
And the thing is, it's getting people on board for turn-based games. The amount of people I've seen this past week talk about how like they're not interested in turn-based combat, but they really want to play this game. And it's a JRPG made by a French team. They keep doing this for some reason, but it works, But anyway, the new trailer looked fantastic. By the way, that game isn't even out yet, and there's already a movie in the works. So
that's a good sign.
That's a good sign, and hopefully, Andy Serkis is also on board because he's in the game. Anyway, I'll go over this quickly. So, Expedition 33, great trailer. There's a isometric horror game called I Hate This Place. It's kind of got this weird, like, I don't want to call it old Resident Evil look. It looks different. If you like that PlayStation 1 style type of thing, you might like this. There's also Once Upon a Puppet. This is a kind of a platformer, 2.5D platformer. Revenge of the Savage Planet. This is a third-person action-adventure game. Now, if people don't remember, the first game, I can't even remember what it was called.
Journey to the Savage Planet.
Thank you. Journey to the Savage Planet. That also launched in Game Pass, I believe. That is a fun game. But this one's third person, and I think with that world and the way the grappling mechanic works, I think it's going to be better off in third person. Next up, there was another game called Anaya Life After Gods. Looked interesting. We got a new trailer for Kingmakers, which is it's a single player or up to 4-player co-op game where you basically go back in time and fight medieval armies but with modern weapons. It looks absolutely over the top in the best possible way. And the interesting thing about this game, they said they're staying with Unreal Engine 4 because of the way the CPU handles like crowd tech and all that stuff. But the game looks fantastic. It's got 100% destructible environments. So if you want to go into like a medieval army and take out a Kalashnikov or like maybe I don't know a truck, like you can take out enemies that way. It looks super fun. And the interesting thing about that game is like, even though it's co-op, you're all going to be able to create your own army in the same world and fight each other or against the computer. So it's crazy stuff what they're going to be doing in that. It's going to be coming to PC first, and I think with a game like that, they kind of need to, and it's a small team making the game. Next up, we got a new trailer for System Shock 2 25th Anniversary Edition. This is a brand new remaster of, obviously, System Shock 2. It's got 4K 60. I think it's actually got 4K 120 FPS mode on Series X as well when that comes out in June. I mean, if you like System Shock, you're going to be all over this. It's basically...
Day one.
Yeah, and it's another Night Dive studio game. Like, they seem to come out with a new remaster or remake every, 5 seconds. It looks fantastic. Next up, Mandragora, Whispers of the Witch. This is a 2D Souls-like, and it looks really good. I will say this, though. I like Souls-likes, but it feels like we're getting a new one every week. It's
burn out a little bit.
Yeah, and I say this is like I loved Elden Ring, and Dark Souls 1 and 3. It's too much. I'll say this, and as soon as they announce Elden Ring 2, I'm gonna buy it. But just there's too many. Just chill. Next up, there was Chains of Freedom. This is a XCOM style post-apocalyptic America style game. It looks really good. If you like XCOM style games, this is going to be one to pick up. Next up, there was Finding Frankie. Now, I was actually confused when I first saw this, but it turns out it's not Five Nights at Freddy's. It's a completely different game. And if you are creeped out by clowns and stuff, that's going to be one to pick up because clowns are creepy. Next up, we have Mountain Blade 2. That's coming to Xbox this June. I did not see the sequel coming to console at all. And this is going to have naval combat in the style of Vikings. So that's going to be bloody good. So if you can have multiplayer maybe with Vikings on ship-to-ship combat, that's going to be a next-level game. Not going to lie. Next up, we have Will Follow the Light. I think it's a 2D side-scroller. Let's see. Yeah. Okay, we have Cloudheim, which is a kind of a Zelda-style game. Looks pretty good. Section 13, I believe that's a shooter. Metal Eden, which is a first-person sci-fi FPS. And if you liked basically Titanfall 2, you might want to pay attention to this. It looks really good. Mecha Break. I feel like we've seen Mecha Break at basically every game showcase for the past 3 years. But if you like Gundams, this is going to be up your alley. Next up, there was Reanimal, which is kind of a first-person shooter where you play as an escape lab animal. It's a very weird game. Next up, there was FBC Firebreak, which is a co-op, 1 to 3 player co-op Control spin-off. Now, I've been saying this since they first showed it, and I like all of Remedy's games. This game looks good. It's obviously using the same world. At least I'm saying that because I played a lot of Control for this new spin-off, which I'm totally fine with. And it looks fun. That game also launches day one in Game Pass, and it's also going to launch day one in PlayStation Plus. So, if they have crossplay, that out of the gate, that should have millions of players ready to go. And finally, Painkiller. That game looks absolutely nuts. Now, I couldn't really find out which one it was, Logan, but is Painkiller that new game? Is that a new game or a remake?
It is, I believe, a reboot, I think. I might be wrong, but I think it's a reboot. At the very least, it is a new game in the series. And it's made by Saber, who obviously did the phenomenal, Space Marine 2 and, World War Z. They've been on a heater lately, so I'm definitely down for this.
Yeah, I mean, if Saber's attached to a game at this point, that's kind of a good sign. I don't think I've played a Saber game in years that I feel is disappointing. And the only thing I could say that's negative about a Saber title, and they published this. They didn't actually make it, and that's A Quiet Place. But you can tell that game was held back by its budget. Um, but yeah, I mean, hell, it was a good show. A lot of cool games there, and if people like Doom, you're gonna be all over Painkiller. And speaking of Saber Interactive, we may as well talk about this now. Um, Warhammer 40k Space Marine 3 was just casually announced to be in development last week. Now, I've talked about this game so much because I'm putting it out there. It's probably one of the best games this generation. It's fun. There's no microtransactions. It feels like a souped up 360 game, and they bloody excelled at making a fun game with that. They really did. Like, as someone that complains, like Logan knows what I mean. Like, I reminisce about the 7th gen a lot, because I felt like it was a better time, and like that Space Marine 2 was that for me. It was a pure souped up 360 game, and even though the multiplayer mode, oof, let me tell you, firing that up a week after launch, I got absolutely owned. Because people, you could tell it had Gears fans playing it. I could tell, and like they basically dominated, and I didn't stand a chance. But like the co-op mode is basically a second campaign. The campaign itself was just so much fun. The enemy tech they have with like thousands of enemies on screen. But yeah, they just casually announced the third game. They did say it's a while off. Space Marine 2 is going to continue to get free updates, and the updates, by the way, for Space Marine 2 are wild. They're putting out free, basically co-op missions for people that have new enemies, new bosses. There's one boss, I can't remember what it's called, but it's basically a huge Titan-like creature, and it's all free content. So like again, Saber proven to be one of the best in the business. But yeah, Space Marine 3 announced out of nowhere, because when 2 came out and it proved to be a huge success, like they said 3 is a plan, but it's officially started development, which is an important thing because we could probably see this in the next 3 years. And given how good that game looked, like if it came out and it looks no better than 2, I'd be perfectly fine with it. That game is stunning. Yeah, I'm happy, man, because like we hear about like these games getting cancelled all the time, studios getting shut down, and then you have Space Marine. You have this franchise, the nerdiest franchise on the planet, with Warhammer 40k, and you have normies playing Space Marine 2. People that have never played a Warhammer game, never read a Warhammer book, never painted a figurine, going out and buying this game. And like it got more people actually interested in the figurines in the universe. So yeah, what can I say? I'm happy. Like Logan, what do you think? Because I know you liked Space Marine as well, but like the third game is actually happening.
Yeah, I was so excited when I saw that announcement come across my feed. I was just like, man, what a flex that is, to where it's like we don't need an E3 reveal. We don't need a this or this. We could just drop on a random Tuesday. Hey guys, you know that game we loved that was universally praised and was super awesome? Yeah, we're making a sequel. It'll be out in the next few years. Have fun. That's such a flex, and I love it. And like you said, like Warhammer, for the outside person was like totally like the epitome of like mouth breather, like hardcore nerddom, like big time, like niche thing. And they took it and brought it to the forefront, and then people like from all kinds of different circles are like, dude, this is actually, this is badass. Like, this is awesome. And like, I've even gotten interested in maybe getting some of the figures to mess around with. Like, it is so cool. I can't speak enough about that game and the attention to detail and the how they've handled everything. Got me interested in the lore. Like, I know Henry Cavill's show that's happening with it, all this stuff. And then the third one gets announced. And it really makes me hopeful that, we're going to talk about BC later, but kind of tie into that. Like, if they could somehow work out something to bring the first one back, either BC or a new port or remaster remake, because I just want even more of this world on consoles. It is that good.
Yeah, I mean, as someone that like I've never read a book for Space Marine or 40K, but I've played a bunch of their games. Um, the universe is interesting. Like I cannot wait for the Henry Cavill show. Like that's going to be bloody nuts. Um,
Hmm.
and you know, funny thing about Warhammer and all that stuff. Uh, like we have a games workshop in Durham City, and basically when the pandemic happened and everywhere, like literally everywhere shut down, most businesses closed shop. So basically, the only things that survived the pandemic, the first lockdown, was the pubs. Uh, but the only shop that basically survived is a games workshop, and that is still there. I think it's been there since before I was born, and like I don't think that like those figurines they cost a lot of money depending on which ones you get. So like Warhammer fans, they spend a lot of money, right? like like the fact that we have a tiny little Warhammer shop right, literally in the center of the city, and it managed to stay open after the pandemic. Um, and don't get me wrong, every time I walk past it, I'm looking at those figurines thinking, you know, I could really paint some of those. They'd be terrible. It'd be
Yeah,
absolutely
especially
awful.
the vehicles are
Yeah,
so cool.
yeah. I don't know how people put that time and effort in. Like, there's so many intricate small parts, and it's like, I know mine would just look absolutely awful. It looked like my cat did it. Um, but yeah, Space Marine 3, it's happening. Can't wait. Um, again, I hope it's like 2 years away. I'm being a bit desperate, but I just want more Space Marine. And like you said, Logan, like when we talk about the BC stuff, it's weird because Space Marine 1 was available on the Xbox store, the 360 store, before it shut down. So like whoever still owns the publishing rights to that game, if I remember correctly, it might be Sega. I'm not entirely sure. I'll have to check. But um, whoever owns the publishing rights still own the publishing rights because you can still buy it on PC. So, and for people that haven't played the first game's even more like Gears of War. Um, Obviously with less enemies on screen and stuff. But yeah, 40K, it's popping off. Love to see it. And I think this is going to get more people into the universe, which is really cool. Anyway, we'll move on. You know what? Let's talk about this quickly. So, this game was announced like 3 years ago. Some people would reply to me saying, Jamie, this game isn't going to happen. And that's Dune Awakening, or Dune Awakening. I keep using the American pronunciation of it. And this game looks fantastic. Like, Dune's been popping off since the first film came out a couple of years ago. Um, and it's a universe I think is really underutilized. I think like they can make so many interesting, cool games set in that universe, and it's slowly happening. So, Dune Awakening is a third-person Unreal Engine 5 MMO, and it's finally coming out this year. Finally, um, and the pricing structure actually surprised me. So it's coming out on PC in May, and I think they're going to announce the console version's release date probably later in the summer. But anyway, this is an MMO. It's not free to play, but it's also not a subscription service game. So upfront, it's $49.99, and they're going to support the MMO with free updates, but also premium expansions. So basically, they're supporting it like a single player game, which I love to see. I know they do the same thing with New World Eternum, and I think it's the best way to do an MMO at the minute. Personally, look, there's a lot of subscription-based MMOs that do perfectly fine. You have World of Warcraft, you have Final Fantasy 14. I would much rather buy the game up front and pay for expansions, personally. Uh, but this game looks fantastic. If you like Dune, you're really going to like this. I don't really play a lot of MMOs. I've put some time into New World Eternum. I've put some time into Elder Scrolls Online. And yeah, I think I'm going to be all over this game. It looks super cool. And from what I can tell, you're going to be able to play this game as a single player game if you want. So if you're like me and you just want to play in this universe by yourself, you can do that. Obviously, it's going to be easier with other people, but there's going to be different factions and stuff. Again, it looks super cool. Logan, what's your take? Because like I know you don't like MMOs, but the idea of being able to play solo is something you like.
Yeah, like New World Eternum, which you brought up earlier, like a single player game that is an MMO, but I can just, play it solo and not have to do other stuff. And it's not a subscription based thing. It's like you just buy the game and you own the stuff you need, and you can buy extra stuff if you want it, especially in the Dune universe, which I find super fascinating. It's like, for those that are somewhat unfamiliar, it was inspirational for Star Wars, a whole bunch of other like classic sci-fi like stuff that is revered in pop culture. Like Dune was very very influential novel and set of books before it became a movie and show and all this stuff. So I'm definitely interested in checking it out.
Yeah, yeah, I think it's going to be a huge success. I mean, th- those newer films, like they have such a huge fan base now, and a lot of gamers have been just
Oh,
what,
they're so good.
yeah, like I don't know if I've talked about this, like part two, June part two. I'm not even kidding. That might be borderline perfect for me.
It was incredible. It was one of those movies that I was that and Oppenheimer were the two most recent films that after I watched I was just sitting there for a minute just comprehending what I had just watched. It was a very powerful film.
Yeah, like I absolutely adore that film, and like even though it's it's set in the Dune universe, but not the same one. Like look, I want more of these games, and I love Star Wars. We're gonna get more AAA games by different developers. I've thrown in the towel when it comes to Star Trek. I know we're not gonna get AAA Star Trek games. Unfortunately, I could cry myself to sleep at night. Um, but with Dune, like there's so many different developers I think who come out with different variations or new games. Like, I would love to see a single player action adventure game, like purely single player for Dune. But I mean, who knows what'll happen? It's to a lot of people, it's still technically a new franchise, even though it's been around before Star Wars. Um,
Hmm.
who knows what'll happen? But hey, you love to see it. Again, it's an MMO. It looks good. What can I say? And if you like single player games, you're gonna be able to play it single player. Anyway, we'll move on. You know what? This story went live literally a few hours ago, and it's actually good news. So, Game Informer are finally coming back. They shut up shop.
Great news.
Yeah, they shut up shop about I want to say 6 months ago to a year. And basically, if you live in the UK, Game Informer is just a website. They have lots of cool interviews. The best part about Game Informer to me was the interviews. Um, and if I remember correctly, Logan, weren't they owned by GameSpot or GameStop?
Yeah, the story with them has been super fascinating. Like basically, they were owned by GameStop, and it used to be like you get a power up reward card, and you'd get a subscription with Game Informer alongside it if you shop the GameStop, or you could subscribe online to just the magazine and get the interviews and the reviews. Like back in the day, growing up, Game Informer was like one of the places I trusted the most for reviews and honesty and like really cool interviews and like getting getting cover art for Game Informer was like a huge honor and deal. Like if your game was chosen as that month's cover, that was a big deal. And you remember how Borderlands was originally debuted on that and it looked way different than what it became?
Yeah, yeah,
And like people go back and look at that, how it looked like Mad Max originally, like dark and like grays and lots of browns and kind of, like almost boring compared to what it
yeah.
became. But like that's another, reason why Game Informer is so important is like you could do all these comparisons and stuff. But yeah, like end of the day, it was owned by GameStop. GameStop had a lot of financial issues and decided to shutter them. Then there was this whole petty thing that happened where they tried to put out a goodbye or say some stuff about the articles. Then they yeeted the account and made it where nobody could access any of the articles or stuff. And then they raided the HQ and took a whole bunch of statues and stuff like trophies and put them in the GameStops at the Minnesota Mall of America and stuff. It was really nasty business. The fallout.
Yeah, I mean, I've always liked going to their website, and I wish their magazines were available in the UK. You just had to read the digital ones. But like you were saying, the Borderlands thing. Borderlands looked so different when it was first released or first shown off. Because yeah, like you said, it did have this Mad Max thing going on, where the whole game was basically like yellow, grey, and brown. Thankfully they changed it.
That era.
Yeah, the piss filter era. But yeah, I mean, Game Informer's back. That's great. And the sad thing was that when they were shut down, like, I thought, maybe the website would stay open as an archive where you could read past articles. Like, the whole thing was shut down, which is a shame because, like, that's gaming history right there. But thankfully, it's coming back. All the people are coming back to, work for Game Informer, the Independent, which is great. It's good news. I think in a time where we see all these developers get shut down, companies shutting down, whatever, like, this is a cool little win. Because, like, game journalism, we've talked about this a lot. Like, game journalism, I think, is in a weird state at the minute, where people either don't trust half of the things being said, or don't like half the things being said. Some of it comes off very clickbaity, whereas game journalism, 15 years ago, like, it wasn't really clickbait. It was really cool articles about cool features in video games, and then they start putting clickbait in the articles, and it kind of changed there. But hey, Game Informer win. That's great. I really do miss gaming magazines.
Oh, them and Nintendo Power back in the day. I grew up with that, and I loved them. They were so good.
Yeah, like, so in the UK we had a Games Master. That was such a good magazine. I used to love Official Xbox magazine, but that shut down, I think, 5 years ago. And there's something.
Wasn't DMC involved with that for a long time?
Yeah,
He
he was in
did IGN.
Yeah, he worked for the US version of the magazine.
Okay.
For quite a long time. That dude blocked me on Twitter, by the way.
Trust me, he blocked me too.
He blocked me like back in like 2016 or 17 because I actually had a good argument about the Kinect adapter. But hey, water under the bridge.
Mine was Tomb Raider.
Oh yeah, I remember that. Yeah, for people that don't know, there was a comment made about like exclusivity and timed exclusivity, and Logan brought up an old post. And people just don't like it when you bring up old posts, but hey, it is what it is. But yeah, Xbox magazine. I used to love that thing. It used to be so good. I know there are some people wanting to bring back gaming magazines that would come back like monthly. I think it's like Inside Gaming. I think it's Inside Gaming that want to do like a quarterly magazine. I miss again. I'm reminiscing about the 7th generation again. I miss game journalism when it was fun and it was interesting. Like, I can't remember how old I was, but I remember being a kid reading. This is kind of sad, really, but screw it. I remember being a kid and reading about upcoming features in Pokemon Gold. And,
yes.
Yeah, I think that might have been official Nintendo magazine, Nintendo Power. But I was reading about the upcoming features for Pokemon Gold. And like there was colored screenshots, and I was losing my mind as a little kid. I was like, "Oh my god, it looks amazing! You're gonna be able to do all these different things in Pokemon." And like, to me, I read this like 6-page like article about upcoming features in Pokemon Gold, and like just that sort of like I say Nick has never been blocked by Ryan. Give it time. Everyone will be blocked by Ryan at some point. But yeah, like when it comes to like articles and stuff back then, it was really nice. It was very hard hitting, and I don't know. Again, I'm reminiscing, But yeah, game journalism. I just want to go back to being fun again. Like everything right now, at least it feels like everything. It just comes off as clickbait. Like it's like when you see those Mr. Beast videos in your feed, and even though they're high production videos, very high production videos, it's like $10 million apartment versus 10-cent apartment. Like it's content that's designed in such a way that you want to click on it. Not that if it's something you like really like, but it feels like game journalism is that at the minute. If you open up IGN on, Twitter or whatever or Facebook, like it's all tabloid fluff. I don't know. I just don't like it.
Yeah, remember when they came with demo discs and everything
Oh
too?
my god! I've got a box in the bottom of one of my wardrobes where it's literally about 3 foot by like 2 foot or whatever, and it's packed, literally packed with demo discs. I've got like Xbox 360, original Xbox, PlayStation 2, PlayStation 1, like tons. And that was a really cool way to like play games back then, because not everything got a demo on Xbox Live or PlayStation Network back then, and even before then, that was the only way to play these games. And oh my god, I'm reminiscing too much today, but yeah, demo discs.
We have to go back, Jim.
Believe me, if we could, I bloody would in a heartbeat. It was just a better time. By the way, while we talk about demo discs, I want to rant about something quick. So my local video game store in the early 2000s, they actually sold a demo disc that was meant to be free, and what they did may have actually been illegal. So they were taking demo discs off. I think it was PlayStation 2 magazine or something, PlayStation magazine, and it was for a wrestling game. There was a very specific wrestling game that had a demo of its own disc, and they were taking the discs off the magazines and selling them for £5 a piece.
That's a punk move.
Yeah, so like if you got your magazine, you'd enjoy reading it, but yeah, they made you pay extra for the demo disc. Bit of a weird move. I'm not a fan, and that still sticks with me. But yeah, Game Informer, they're back, which is great. Again, they have some amazing interviews on their website, and hopefully they can continue to be around, because again, I feel like Game Informer was one of the few places that didn't clickbait.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, we'll move on. You know what, Logan, you want to talk about this quickly, and that is Phil Spencer on TV adaptations for their Xbox games. Now, I haven't watched Halo yet, and I haven't watched Fallout yet because I'm determined to finish Fallout 4 first. But I know that Fallout the TV show is beloved, and I know that Halo isn't. Again, I haven't watched either of them, so I don't really have an opinion. But what's your take on what Phil Spencer said? Because clearly there's a right way of doing it and a wrong way of doing it. And I think Logan's audio may have messed up. Logan, if you can hear me, you've either botted out or I can't hear you. Anyway, we'll get back to Logan in a second. Yeah, I think it's just his internet playing up again. I think there's a right way of doing these things, because I've seen a lot of movie adaptations from video games. Mortal Kombat back in the day. I love that game. I love that film, honestly. Then we had the second movie, which was it was terrible. Like that sequel, I think it was called Mortal Kombat Armageddon. That's an awful film, absolutely awful. Then you had Street Fighter, the movie. I may get some flack for this online. I actually like that Street Fighter movie. It's not the best movie, but it's fun, and it's got Kylie Minogue in it. So I mean, she's fantastic in that. Absolutely awful in a lot of aspects, but it's a fun film. Over the years, things have gotten better and better. The DMC anime looks great. You had the Castlevania Netflix show, which bloody amazing anime. Dragon's Dogma was kind of a step backwards for Netflix, but all in all, things are getting better. You have the Mario movie, which came out, I think it was last year or the year before. Super fun movie. If people haven't seen the Mario movie, really good, and I'm not talking about the one from the 90s. But yeah, with Halo, I always saw people online talk about how it's not really faithful to the source material. Um, I get it, yeah, but the thing is, I always thought it was Halo fans being angry about Halo. It turns out it was people just not liking the content, which, fair enough. Just running, Logan, are you back? Yeah, his internet's playing up. He'll be back. And the Sonic movies. Those Sonic movies, fantastic. I watched the third one when it came out at the cinema, and let me tell you, I think it's the best one in the trilogy. It's such a fun film. You have basically Jim Carrey playing two characters, and it works. Like that film is the kind of film I should not like, but it's such a fun movie. I think that's a good way of making it. Oh, Logan, you're
Yeah,
back.
I agree. Oh, sorry. But yeah, just that super excited for it. It looks awesome. And IPs, near and try to get something going for some other ones, and I'm excited.
Yeah. I don't know if your internet's like kind of crapped out, Logan, but you were bottoming in and out there.
Oh, sorry. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, it's slightly cutting in and out, but like, what do you think like Phil Spencer's going to do about the quality of TV adaptations? Because like in the past few years, we've had some good ones and we've had some bad
I
ones.
think Phil Spencer's. Yeah.
Yeah. I hope we just get I can't even speak today. Good adaptations. Try and say that 10 times fast. Like I think we've got some good stuff coming. There's Warhammer coming. If no, that's not a video game. Like Mortal Kombat 2's coming out this year, I believe. You have Carl Urban, who is Johnny Cage. I'm a fan of Carl Urban. I hope they come out with like something really good, but I mean, who knows what will happen? Like, there's an obvious one which they could do, and that is Gears of War featuring Batista. Like that's such an obvious thing they should do. You have Batista, who's actually played the Gears of War games, who wants to play Marcus Phoenix, and like the older he gets, the less likely it becomes that he's actually going to play Marcus. So like they really need to get on it right now and actually do something with Gears, because if I remember correctly, Universal like have the rights to do some Gears stuff, but also Netflix does as well. I I honestly don't know what's going to happen. I really don't. I just hope that we get something soon, because man, Gears of War. It's been a long time since we've had anything with Gears of War. Um, Weirdly enough, the only IP I really don't want adapted is Mass Effect. I know for a fact that would get butchered. I'd never want to see what that would.
Wasn't Amazon doing a Mass Effect?
Yeah, that was a rumor. By the way, I'd like to believe that rumor in part because one, it was apparently going to have Henry Cavill as Shepard. I mean, who knows? Like the thing is, I'm saying this right now, and I know I'll be the first person watching it, so I'm just going to be a big hypocrite if I just complain about it now. Whatever. I hope they make it. I don't know. But yeah, do you know the reason why we're seeing so many video games get adapted into movies and TV shows at the minute? It's because the well has basically ran dry on superheroes, right? Hollywood, they've squeezed superheroes out so hard that like these companies, they can't come up with original material anymore. So they're looking to what already exists. They're looking at anime and they're looking at video games. And there's a lot of movies and anime to be adapted into movies and television. That's just my opinion, but it does feel like that way. But hey, hopefully Phil Spencer can get the quality control happening, because again, Halo, again, I haven't seen it. I've never heard a good thing about it outside of its special effects. Anyway, we'll move on. You know what, Logan, I know you want to talk about the BC stuff thing, because we've complained a lot about backwards compatibility and, that we both feel like they ended the service too soon, or the program, because there's still hundreds of games that could be backwards compatible. There's titles that don't have any licensing issues when it comes to music, so like they obviously ended the backwards compatible thing early because they wanted everything to work across Xbox Series X and S. But we're waiting for things to be backwards compatible for Activision games. We're waiting, excuse me, we're waiting for things to be put in the Game Pass, and it just feels like the process is moving at a snail's pace because we're getting one Activision game a month in Game Pass, and at this rate, we'll all be 110 by the time we get, Call of Duty Modern Warfare 3 in there. KRC Logan's still having some issues with his internet. Oh, he wrote a message. Internet has been horrible. Sorry about button. As soon as he gets back in, it's all good. I mean, especially with this weather we're having over here, I can only imagine what it's like in the US. But, when it comes to backwards compatibility, there's hundreds of titles which they could be making backwards compatible, but they just don't. And, they are working on compatibility going forward with, future devices. There's apparently the stuff about PC getting compatibility with Xbox 360 games. Who knows if that's going to be a thing? But all in all, like, we just want more games to be available. I talk about this all the time. There's a game from 360 which I would love to be backwards compatible because it will never get remastered. And that game is called The Saboteur. It will never be made backwards compatible, probably. And it will definitely not get remastered. And I would love more people to get Logan. We're talking about the backwards compatibility thing and like how we're just not getting much. And when it comes to Activision games and Game Pass, it's basically non-existent.
Yeah, it's been frankly a sick joke. Like how long and dragged out the process has been for any content, even the games that are already playable, to be added to Game Pass. Like a year and a half later, there's like 7, maybe 8 games from Activision Blizzard's catalog and Game Pass, and not even all of them have all the full features and stuff. Like, Diablo 4, for example, you can't play on cloud and some other stuff like the other ones you can. Or, like, Tony Hawk isn't there yet. Tony Hawk, 3 and 4 are about to come out in the next few months. And then, the older Call of Duties, they went to all the effort to fix the servers and the online stuff, and they're not in there. That'd be an easy win. And like that's just for the stuff that's already available. But like, Jez had a great article, Destin had a great video. Yeah, there have been several Boom and you had some stuff. Nick and Xbox Era had some stuff. Like basically everybody's rallying the wagons and are like, hey, what is the blankety blank deal on this? Like why is it taking so daggum long? And where are these older games? Because, you put out a statement that, hey, as soon as the deal closes, we're going to put everything we possibly can into Game Pass. And then crickets. And a year and a half later, there's 7, 8 titles. That just ain't going to cut it, buddy. Like, I'm not even being greedy. I just think that's, you know, kind of ridiculous. And then you've got all these games that you own like are not licensing issues like Quake 4, Quake Wars, Wolfenstein '09, Return to Castle Wolfenstein. They were cross-haired between Activision, id, and Bethesda when the entities were independent, but are all now together under one nice roof. This is not a hard thing. Just come on now. Like those seem no-brainers. Just please, just put them in there. If nothing else is a goodwill gesture. I don't care if there's only 20 of us who want to play them. That's 20 people that matter and 20 people who care and have been supporting your brand even when you've been doing some stuff that a lot of people aren't thrilled about. So just Those, and then obviously Singularity, the older Crash Bandicoot and Spyro games like Spyro, Legend of the Dragon. Then there was a Dragon's Tail, Crash. The Crash of the Titans, the other Crash racing games, other older Crash platformers, Prototype, Singularity, Gun, True Crime. There are so many games they own that they can put in there, and they just haven't for whatever reason. So, like, at some point, either say, we're just not going to do it, so quit asking, and we're just not, or do it. It's just, I don't know. Like, I don't want to sound greedy. I don't want to sound impatient. I'm a very positive guy. I'm a very patient man. But at some point, something drags on long enough, you're like, okay, now. Like, at least be straightforward and honest about something.
Yeah, I mean, look, I know there's obviously going to be a portion of people that get tired of us talking about this, but I, uh, when they introduced backwards compatibility in 2015, like I was relieved that the fact that I wouldn't have to have like multiple, because I if it was up to me, I just have one box underneath my TV that could play everything. Convenience.
Yeah,
Like,
amen.
and it's 2025 and I still have a 360 underneath my telly. Like still. um And by the way, for people that don't know, like if you fire up a 360 now in 2025, it's actually significantly faster now that the ads are off the dashboard. So, food for thought. But yeah, there's so many games that could be like backwards compatible that just aren't. Like I talk about this a lot. Singularity, like that's such an obvious game that should be backwards compatible. And if I remember correctly, it has like one licensed song, and it's from like the 40s. So like I refuse to believe that it's like licensed stuff. And I mentioned this title before, Medal of Honor 2010. If I remember correctly, that isn't backwards compatible because of one Linkin Park song in the credits.
Come on.
Yeah. And for people that haven't played that, wow, such a good first-person shooter campaign. Super intense. In my opinion, one of the best first-person shooter campaigns from that generation. Yeah, Condemned 2 isn't backwards compatible. Like it's crazy, Um, and is are we being greedy? Are we being entitled? I'm gonna go with no. Because when the Activision Blizzard thing was first announced in 2023? Yeah, I think it was 2023. Some people were going, hey, brand new Call of Duty, day one Game Pass, all that stuff. Like, me and Logan from the beginning were talking about, hey, what about these old games? Right? We've been talking about this for 2 years. I want these literally, I have sealed Transformers games right next to me. They call into me like the Green Goblin mask, basically. Uh, basically,
You're pathetic.
yeah, basically, just begging me to open them because the two games I missed out on back in the day, but they're just sitting right here. But if I could, like, just keep them in the plastic and play them on my Xbox Series X, that'd be great. But I mean, we just don't know. Again, it's all moving at a snail's pace. I would love it if they if they came out tomorrow and said, "Look, it's coming, but it's like 6 months, a year from now." I'm 100% happy with that. But it's the
I'd
fact
be
that
happy.
yeah, it's the fact that we just don't know. It's like saying how long is a piece of string? Nobody knows, right? So like hopefully we get something. And like look, if at this Xbox Summer Showcase, if they have like a 5-second sizzle reel of just saying, hey, these games are going to be made available on Xbox and Game Pass, and literally just say, by the end of 2025, I'd be perfectly fine with that. I literally don't care. I just want to know if it's happening, not necessarily when. But yeah, again, there's so many games that could be made backwards compatible, and I've talked about this before. I think them shutting down the 360 store when they did was a bad move. They should have kept it open for this year to get to its 20th anniversary, and it would have been great. It would have been great. Anyway, we'll move on. We've still got like 40,000 topics. You know what, Logan? Since you weren't here last week, I want your opinion on this. This basically went live just before last week's show, and that's Xbox and EA possibly buying Ubisoft IP. Now, I've talked about it a lot, about what my opinion is on it, but what's your take on it?
I like the idea if it's possible. I know there's been some stuff since then that have come out that suggest maybe what they're more looking for is like people to invest or like own a percentage of something and then, get cuts and have control, in some capacities. But let's say they do want to sell, actually fully sell some of their IPs. I love the idea. Like imagine and I wouldn't even be talking like the top two or three. Like, obviously, Assassin's Creed, Far Cry, Ghost Recon, their Tom Clancy stuff. Like, those are the huge money makers, and I would think they'd probably keep those, or they would sell for, the price of some studios. But, like, to me, I'd be going after some of the known but less successful recently stuff. Like I'd go for Ninja Theory with their DMC experience, enslaved experience, like Hellblade combat and visuals and all this other stuff. Like imagine them taking a crack at Prince of Persia, or and then the Metroidvania spin-off of it, which was super good. Or like Child of Light was a really fantastic game that people wanted a sequel for.
Yeah.
Or Rayman is really good. Like that would be great. Like Xbox could use all the family franchises they can get. Throw him in with Banjo and Crash and Spyro. Like you're really cooking with something. And then, they also have Splinter Cell, which you and I both love, and is heavily associated with the original Xbox and 360. Like, Splinter Cell is a no brainer, even if you could just get the rights to that one. But if you could get, like, the whole Tom Clancy rights and get, like, Ghost Recon, Splinter Cell, Rainbow Six, and, like, all that stuff, that's a no brainer to get. Like they have so many good IPs just sitting there rotting away. Like you remember there was a JRPG they did, like I can't remember what it was called, but it
Enchanted
was
Arms.
360. Yes, and it was a 360 exclusive. Like get the rights to that and bring that back and relist it on the store. Or there was also they did a game with Arcane Austin, rest in peace, but that was Dark Messiah Might and Magic, which is super cool game on the 360. Like stuff like that. Like they have some really cool IP that are lesser known. They also did Cold Fear, which was a game I hope Night Dive gets a crack at, which is basically like Resident Evil on a boat out in the middle of the ocean. And it's like terrifying and creepy and just super cold and wet environment. You're on a boat and you're isolated. It's super cool and unique idea. Like, they have so many cool stuff. Like I'm totally for buying IP from them and getting them a jail out of free card to keep going and trying again with Assassin's Creed because it seems like Shadows is doing awesome. So if they get an influx of huge capital from buying IPs, that would help them even more.
Yeah. I mean, I think the only franchises Ubisoft wouldn't sell would be Assassin's Creed, Rainbow Six, and Far Cry. Like, those
Yeah,
three
probably.
basically print money for them. Um, but and maybe I'm saying this because I'm a Splinter Cell fan, but I'm kind of sick and tired of not having a Splinter Cell game. It's been 12 years, 12 long years since Assassin's Creed. Sorry, since Splinter Cell. Um, and like Splinter Cell Blacklist is really good. And it got a lot of hate back in the day because they changed voice actors and stuff. But like as a stealth game, like Blacklist still plays incredible. and that's an Unreal Engine, I think, 2.5 game. Even though it came out after Conviction, it was on like an engine below it, basically. Um, but like, what a game! And you know, like I was saying earlier in the show, I want Ubisoft to have like massive success. If it was up to me, Ubisoft would go back to how they were in 2012. They would be making all these games that feel different from each other, and they would keep all of their IP. But it'll be weird because like if Microsoft or EA buy IP, are they also buying studios? Like, who knows? But I think the writing's in the wall at this point. I think Ubisoft are going to wait and see because apparently there was a lot of people in the investors board that were basically angry that this idea was floating out there because they weren't basically told. So who knows what's going to happen? I will say this though. I do think it will happen. I think they're gonna, let the water settle on like what Assassin's Creed Shadows is doing because it's clearly doing well. And if this is going to be a 10 million seller, which I think it will actually hit like 10 million over the next year, they are basically wanting this to save the entire company. Which I mean,
Tall ask.
yeah, tall ask. So like, who knows what's going to happen? They just need it to be a good game, you know. Oh yeah, Beyond Good and Evil. By the way, Beyond Good and Evil 2 was shown up.
Forgot that existed.
Yeah,
It's been in development hell so long.
yeah. I think
But
Ubisoft
yeah,
forgot
that'd
it
be
existed. Like,
Skull and Bones, baby. Woo!
oh god, like
Oh.
the fact that Skull and Bones exists in Beyond Good and Evil 2 doesn't infuriate me. Like when that game was first shown off, not the CGI trailer for Beyond Good and Evil, but when we first got gameplay, like that blew my mind. I was like, I need this in my life so bad. And what? When was the last time we had an update for Beyond Good and Evil 2? What?
5 years ago?
Maybe like
Has it been 5 years?
I think it's been 5 years, and
Oh, good grief.
that was before we had these consoles. My God, like if I remember correctly, I think that was shown off at the same time as Skull and Bones was announced.
Yeah, because it had like the Jade as a samurai, like neo dystopian
Yeah,
like trailer, and then had like the pig guy at a bar and like all this crazy stuff going on.
yeah. I mean, if anything, what I would like to be saved. I don't know if this will happen. Immortals: Phoenix Rising.
Oh, that's another one. I forgot about that one. That one should be saved as well. So good.
Yeah, that was a great game, and that had a sequel in development. Apparently, they got pretty far through development. It was gonna have like an ancient Hawaiian type theme. That would have been fantastic. But yeah, who knows what will happen? Will it happen? I mean, who knows? I mean, the thing about Microsoft is that even though everything leaks, they managed to keep the Bethesda acquisition quiet, and they managed to keep the Activision acquisition quiet. Like, if anyone tells you that they knew about it, they lie. That those two things did not leak on any level, and it made waves. So, like, who knows what will happen with Ubisoft IP? Maybe IP will be bought, and we won't really know about it until Ubisoft starts removing artwork from the website, and who's going to figure that out? I doubt most people even go to their website. But yeah, it is what it is. Hopefully, nothing happens and they, have huge success with Assassin's Creed. You know what? Let's talk about one of the big ones, and that's PlayStation games on Xbox. Now, this particular topic today I've seen, it's made some people angry because, how dare you? I'm not going to mention names. I think mentioning other people's names on a podcast or in videos, it's just something I'm not going to do. I've seen people today talk about how like oh, you guys are celebrating PlayStation games maybe going to Xbox via Steam where we all playing Xbox games, and it's like I think the Steam thing on Xbox is looked at in a weird way when it comes to PlayStation because in my opinion, people aren't looking at Steam for Xbox because of PlayStation games. There's thousands of games that go on Steam every single year that don't come to console, like RTS games, MMOs, different kinds of strategy games. First person shooters. Hell, like if you like 2.5D or 2D Metroidvanias, there's a new one of those games releasing on Steam like every week that don't come to console. And like, if the Steam thing does come to Xbox, this would just mean that people would have access to thousands of games that are on a different platform. And I checked this before. Like, we probably will see the Epic Store as well. And it turns out I have 293 Epic Store games, all of which I've claimed for free. So like, would it be cool if I could play these games on my Xbox? Hell yeah! Like, I have no intention of downloading most of these games on my PC, because my PC is made for video editing. But I would love to be able to fire up an RTS game. So like Homeworld Remastered. If I could fire that on an Xbox, plug in my keyboard and mouse into my console, that would be bloody great. You're going to have people console warring over this stuff because, PlayStation games would obviously be playable on the device. But to me, it's all about the thousands of games. Would it be cool for someone to be able to play, I don't know, Spider-Man on their Xbox? Well, yeah, because then Xbox is technically classed as a PC device and Steam is on PCs, so people will be able to play the games they own. In my opinion, like, I don't think you're going to have access to the Steam store on your console financially. It doesn't actually make any sense for Microsoft. But if you could play your owned games on these storefronts on your console, I think that's a win-win for everyone. Logan, what's your take? Because people have been really angry today and salty over this whole topic, but like, realistically, it looks like Microsoft is experimenting with Steam integration in some capacity next generation.
I actually have a lot of thoughts on this one, if that's all right.
Oh yeah.
Because it covers a wide. I find it amusing when people get mad about it, or act upset or lash out or go, well, actually we have this, so nah. Like, you know what I mean, like the acting like toddlers about this thing. And it's just funny. It's like, wait a minute, first it was Xbox doesn't have games, and then Xbox games are garbage. Now you're happy you get them, and now you're like, but wait a minute, I don't want my games to be playable by other people too. I want all of mine and all of yours. And it's just funny. Like, to me, in a perfect world, there are the console makers. There's Nintendo, there's Xbox, and there's PlayStation, and they all make their consoles, but they all play everything. And it's like basically like cars and phones and devices and stuff, to where it's like, hey, I get this because I like a certain ecosystem or features or accessories, customability, user interface, whatever you like about one, so you gravitate towards it. But you can play, your stuff at the end of the day. Like, imagine if there were Blu-ray players that only played like Blu-rays from certain companies. Like, I'm not talking, 4K versus Blu-ray. There's obviously a difference there. But like, for example, like, this Blu-ray player will only play Sony produced movies, or this Blu-ray player will only play Lionsgate movies. You see how ridiculous that is? Like, I know that's the industry we grew up in with gaming, but it's just clear that that's just not going to be a way it's going to go going forward. Like, Nintendo will probably always be their own little island, and they're just happy, and everybody's going to buy 50 million copies of Animal Crossing because they will. But, for the most part, I think we're coming to an age where games are just games. And it's like, you play what you want, where you want, how you want. And, it's like, if I want a sad dad narrative, I'll pick up this game. If I want a third person shooter, I'll pick up this game. Puzzle, this, horror game, that. and it'll just be, I don't it becomes less and less about, platform, company, more studios, like kind of like it used to be. And I look forward to that, and the idea of being able to get Steam, or like, I hope also GOG or itch.io come as well. Like, especially GOG, and I'll hop into that in a minute. But like Steam, for example, has thousands upon thousands of games that aren't on console, but have controller support, which has always been kind of just weird to me to begin with. It's like, okay, let me get this straight. You can get this running on a PC, and you can use like a 360 controller plugged in, or a Xbox One or DualShock controller, but you say you can't have it on a console for reasons. Like, imagine those quote reasons go away, and you can play Blood, or, I can't remember what it's called. Like, maybe Celico. It's like this game that came out that's very fear inspired. It's really, really good, and it's not on consoles yet. Like, that's one I would play. Um, Saboteur is on Steam. There's Alpha Protocol. There's all these games that are not BC, or that are but are playable with controller on, these PC stores. So, like, if I could play them on my console via that way, if Xbox is just going to drop the ball on BC going forward, then that'd be awesome. And so, yeah, PlayStation games would just be a bonus. Being able to play God of War. Like, I already got a PS5. Like, if I want to play it that bad, I'll just play it on my PS5. But like, the idea of going forward that I could just play anything I want on one device, whether it's through a Steam workaround, or a GOG workaround, or itch.io, Xbox, whatever. Like, not to get into political stuff, but there were these games that came out a few years ago from this Japanese studio, or Chinese studio, I think, Red Candle,
Oh
I
yeah.
think. They made some horror titles that were highly popular, but they got delisted from Steam and some other places for quote reasons. But GOG has them. Like, imagine being able to play those games on your console because you have GOG, or the Dino Crisis remaster thingies that they're doing, or Fear Platinum, or if they get No One Lives Forever, some of these other games that they're able to get that no one else can, but they have controller support. If you can play it on a console through a workaround, that that's a no-brainer to me. Sign me up ASAP. So to me, this is all great news, and I really, really hope it works. The PlayStation games are just a bonus to me.
Yeah, I mean, like, it's just more games at the end of the day. The thing is, today I've seen people just like arguing back and forth. Like, is it possible for these games to get like delisted from Xbox if Steam does come like to the console? Like, we honestly don't know, right? Um, Steam works on PCs. If that point, Xbox would be a PC. Um, albeit with like a console shell. Um, we just don't know what'll happen. It's just speculation at this point. But like, I would love to be able to, play my like Steam or Epic Store, and like GOG. Like, it would be cool to have GOG integration on console, because how many old games are on that platform that are like so good? Like, I'm gonna port beg Star Trek Armada 1 and 2, published by Activision in the early 2000s. Uh, some of the best Star Trek games ever made. I've put probably thousands of hours alone into Star Trek Armada 2. Uh, peak sci-fi RTS. And I would love to be able to play these again. Old games are better. I would love to be able to play these old games. And by the way, on PC, there's an obscene amount of Star Trek games. We need these on console. um, um, for people that don't know, yes, I'm a Trekkie. But yeah, I would love to be able to play these old games. Any game basically. Like, hell, I have the Homeworld collection on PC. Homeworld Desert of Karat. Like, the possibilities are endless. People are going to latch at the PlayStation headline and just like try and console war it. But I mean, At the end of the day, like at the minute, I don't have a PlayStation. And the thing is, I still intend on getting a PlayStation at some point, just when I have more time. So like for me, I'd be looking at like the Half-Life remake, stuff like that. I'd love to play a Black Mesa on console. And you also have things like, again, this is a rumor, like Half-Life 3 is rumored every 5 seconds, but when that does come out, I can't imagine that being put on console straight away. I really can't. But theoretically, you'd be able to fire it up and play it on your Xbox that way. And to me, that would be basically the best thing ever. But I think, going forward, the gaming space is a bit weird because, you have Nintendo in their own little safe shell doing their own thing where they can put out Mario Kart and sell, like, 2 billion copies. And, like, if they come out and announce Mario Kart 9 with the Switch 2, whew, that's going to sell a lot of copies. And, oh yeah, isn't the Switch 2 event next week? I think it is, yeah. But like hopefully we'll see some like cool stuff there. But anyway, back to Xbox. Like the industry's in a weird place because you have all these studios looking for new sources of income, way to make more money. You have Square Enix, which are talking about multi-platform development and releases and stuff for their games. So like something's got to give at this point. PlayStation, multi-platform company. They put games out on PC. Some games are day and date. Some games aren't. Will things change in the future? Probably. But you're always going to have console gamers that stick to console. Like I have a PC. That's how I'm doing this podcast right now. I have 2 games on my PC. 2. And that is literally Human Fall Flat and Homeworld Collection. I have no intention of playing anything else on this PC. I've just got them and I'm happy. But the industry's changing. It's very weird. If we go back 7 more days. That's good. By the way, I might actually stream the Switch 2 event. See what happens because like that's going to be an interesting thing.
Mm-hmm.
Like there's been rumors floating around today that apparently the Switch 2 event. I know we're talking about Xbox, but we'll get back to it. But the Switch 2 event is apparently going to focus around exclusive content and some third-party games. Then apparently there's going to be like more of a focus on third-party content later in the year, and they also have Christmas Christmas first-party content as well. So I don't know what's going to happen. Will there be a Pokemon game? Will there be? I 100% think there's going to be a Mario Kart, and they kind of showed one off in the trailer. It's going to be interesting. But yeah, back to the whole industry stuff. Like in the past, and I see it in chat right now, and I've mentioned this before, like every other industry in the past 15 years has basically changed, 20 years, But the music industry changed with iTunes, right? Before iTunes, you were buying an entire album of maybe, let's say, 13 songs by one of your favorite artists, and maybe 4 of them were good songs, right? Then Steve Jobs sat down with all of the record labels and started talking about how, hey, you're going to sell every song for 99 cents. And everyone laughed at Steve Jobs, called him nuts. But this was
game changer, though.
Yeah, game changer. And this was back when LimeWire and like Napster were like getting a lot of people's attention because that was free music. But if you can make, even though it costs money, if you can make it easy for people to purchase music or movies or whatever, people will go that way over pirating. And look what turned out. The charts went off iTunes for the longest time, and then it went to streaming. Now you can like imagine telling yourself from like 20 years ago that music would be free. Like that'd be crazy. Like I do not pay for Spotify. I stream music for free. I stream music on YouTube. And like that's where the industry is now. You look at movies and television. Go back 20 years ago. How did the industry work? A film got released at the cinema, then it got released on VHS, then on TV probably a year later, 2 years later. And now you have movies going to streaming day one. You have TV. The biggest TV shows aren't on television anymore. They are on streaming services, where some of these shows cost like $30 million an episode, biggest TV shows of all time, and they aren't supported by ads, basically. Not really. And, books basically went to ebooks in the mid-2000s, late 2000s, and basically everything's moving that way. I will say this, I think digital comics are crap. Comics do not work for me on a touchscreen. It's not the same experience. But yeah, like all these industries have been changing over the years, but video games, they've kind of stayed the same, And now we're at a point where, look, it is weird that you're going to have, let's say, Forza Horizon 5 launch on PlayStation, I think next month or something. Like, it is weird. But like things are changing. If you go back 5 years ago, nobody would have thought in a million years PlayStation would put, let's say, Uncharted or something on a PC, and you can get a bunch of those games on PC. Days Gone, Ghost of Tsushima, the Spider-Man games, stuff like that. So like times are changing, really changing, and it's weird for a lot of people. Because again, it's 2025, and there's a subset of people online. Like, I would love gaming media to go back to magazines. I would love to have demo discs back. I would love things to stay like that, because maybe I'm stuck in the past. Who knows? But like, I'm also accepting that things are changing. Like, do these games going to PC bother me? And go back to 2016 when Quantum Break went to PC. It didn't bother me because I don't play games on PC. Not really. Again, I play 2 games. So, to me, like, the industry's changing. It's in a weird place. We just have to kind of be along for the ride. Before when people try and doom and gloom all the stuff going on at the minute, you can only get Uncharted 4 on PC. They'll probably bring the collection at some point. What the hell? Okay, for some reason my PC is acting up. Okay, for people that don't know.
You still there, Jeremy?
Yeah, can you hear us?
Yeah, I've been listening.
Yeah, okay, if people can hear me in chat, for some reason, my webpage decided to refresh itself. So if you can hear me, just let me know. I absolutely hate OBS, Discord, and trying to get this whole thing to work with YouTube. It's such a mess. But yeah, the industry's changing. It's weird. And, who knows what the industry's going to be like 10 years from now. Like, if you go back to, I don't know if you remember this, Logan, before the Xbox One and the PlayStation 4 came out, people like Michael Pachter were talking about how the video game landscape is going to transition to all these publishers putting out games on Android boxes and tablets. Can you remember that?
Yeah, I remember that era, like how everybody thought it was, gonna go purely mobile, which, come to think about it, they were ahead of the curve. Like, yeah, mobile is part of the game landscape now, but it's definitely not the sole focus like they were trying to make it like.
Yeah, like back then there was like a few like small Android boxes that would cost like $99, and iPad gaming was taken off. iPads were basically everywhere at that point, and Square Enix,
Infinity Blade,
Infinity Blade, like all these companies were like making these games for consoles, and then they were looking at this growing market, the Android gaming box and tablets, and they were really looking at completely abandoning console, because they thought the gamers were going to shift to basically those cheaper devices, Android boxes and tablets. But if you go back and look at your game shelf, if you have a video game shelf, look at all the games that released in 2014. You'll notice something. It's kind of barren, right? we kind of had there was a bunch of interesting games there, but companies like Square Enix and EA and Ubisoft, they were banking on these like Android boxes taking off. So I'll use this one game as an example. Just Cause 3. Just Cause 3 was originally going to be an episodic game, then a multiplayer game. And then when they found out people were buying these Xbox Ones and PlayStation 4s, yeah, people are still wanting traditional gaming. So that's why that was a weird time. That's why we had so many remasters during the early 8th generation. And like now, like people are still buying consoles. People are still buying PCs. The hardcore console gamer isn't growing, right? Microsoft's talked about this. I think Sony's talked about this. I know EA's talked about it. Like the hardcore gamer, core console gamer is basically tapped out at what 100 million consoles, 100 million, 200 million, or something like that. Yeah, 2014. Like I'm looking at my shelf right now. Let's see what came out in 2014. Alien Isolation, great game. Wolfenstein, Watch Dogs, Metal Gear Solid Ground Zeroes, which you can finish in 20 minutes.
Wasn't Tomb Raider definitive that year?
Yeah, and a remaster, but like it was a very like early last generation was rough because nobody thought they'd be releasing console games. And like I remember that generation thinking like, okay, I'm enjoying Titanfall. It's great. I'm looking forward to Wolfenstein and Watch Dogs. But my God, early last generation was so boring. Like people were console war back and forth, but all I could think was like, there's nothing to play. Like everything just is like remasters and it's barren. It was terrible. Let's see what else came out that year. The Metro Collection. Again, more remasters. So like most of the gaming industry thought we were going to be playing on bloody Android boxes. Remember the Ouya? The Ouya, this.
Oh yes, I remember that. That was such a quirky device.
Yeah, and because of that little box that the CEO said there's nothing special about this device, right? The whole gaming industry were looking at that tiny little console thinking that's what's next, right? So not Xbox putting out this new console, not PlayStation putting out this new console. This tiny little Android box was going to start a wave of hype, a wave of like a new era in gaming. Like everyone ran with it, and that's why that was a barren generation for the first few years. And like now you have most gamers turn on their console, they turn on their phone or tablet, and what do? They fire up a free-to-play multiplayer game such as Fortnite, Apex, Warzone, PUBG, and like them playing console games, playing a premium game is an alien concept to them. So like everyone listening right now, me and Logan, like we are essentially a dying breed. Right? When we all gone and dust, I'm putting out there, I don't think we'll be getting big single-player games by any of these companies. We'll be getting free-to-play fluff filled with microtransactions. That's where it's all going. So like,
sounds like the apocalypse, man.
I mean, Jesus, take the wheel at this point because like that's where it's going. And it's kind of scary. So like, yeah, you're gonna have Microsoft putting their games on other devices. You're gonna have Sony put their games on other devices. That's just where it's going. And will things change 2 years from now? It's quite possible. It's just we don't really know what's around the corner. And I think them putting Steam, or possibly letting you have access to your Steam games is just one avenue of like doing something different because Xbox's like their console plans have basically always been the same. We're going to release a new, more powerful console. Then the next generation comes. It's a more powerful console, and that's great. But like I think Microsoft, they realize like, look, they need to try something different. Maybe move the needle in a different way. And I think doing the PC stuff, it'll work out for them. I mean, look, again, I have no intention of buying PC games on a PC, but if I can play them on a console, hell yeah. I'll be buying Steam games all the time that aren't on console.
Agreed.
I'm saying that, and I've been looking at this keyboard that's available for Xbox It's made by 8-Bit Door, and it's a transparent original Xbox green. The second they
Green
put
Goblin messed
yeah,
him.
yeah, basically. And the second they put that on console, like Steam, I'll be buying all sorts of RTS games, and like I'll be buying 30-year-old Star Trek games, because my God, let me tell you, as a Star Trek fan, there's nothing to play on console, bloody nothing. We've got Star Trek Online and Star Trek Prodigy Supernova, and yes, I do own that game. It's blatantly made for
There's that Telltale game.
yeah,
Well, not Telltale, but like Telltale. But
yeah.
it's not an RTS.
Yeah, I'll talk about that game quickly. That's a damn good Star Trek game. I was gonna say Resident Evil Resurgence, Star Trek Resurgence. If you're a fan of TNG, DS9, and Voyager, my God, that is fantastic Star Trek. But yeah, it'll be a cool option for people. You know, can third party games be on Steam be blocked? I mean, I honestly,
I don't know.
Not a lot of people really know like how the whole like how does Steam API work. Like, I couldn't tell you, right? I haven't logged onto Steam in maybe 2 years. Like, I don't know how any of their licensing works. But if a future Xbox is considered as a Windows device, and it can run Steam, then theoretically it can't be blocked. But I mean, we've seen people go back and forth today about how these games could be blocked. We just don't know. And when it comes to PC stuff, yeah, see in chat, Nick's talking about the Raspberry Pi, right? There's a lot of advantages of a Raspberry Pi, old games. And, but at the end of the day, I just want to be able to play these old ass games on my console,
Same.
Yeah.
It's like, let me play my 90s game in peace and live a quiet, happy life.
Yeah, I mean, this is how much I like old games, right? And this is a game, it was basically before my time, so I've never had the ability to play it. There's an RPG that came out in, I want to say the early 90s or something, or 80s, and it's just called Star Trek. And it was made by Interplayer. And you basically have a bunch of developers from In Exile that made this game. And it's on Steam. It's usually like £6. And it's this pixelated 1980s looking game. And I want to be able to play that on my console. Like, I seriously though, topic for another day, I'm starving for Star Trek games. Like, absolutely starving. Like, people console war back and forth. Like, someone bloody make a Star Trek game. Like, seriously, like, what's it got to take?
Bethesda made one on the 360, I know. And speaking of BC, that would be a good candidate.
Yeah, a bit of a tangent. That game, Star Trek Legacy, so good. It's so good. They got a bunch of voice actors from Voyager, Enterprise, TNG, all come back, play their roles. So good. At some point, I might just do like a random live stream complaining for 2 hours about why we don't get Star Trek games, but no one will listen to that. Because my God, like,
wear a red shirt.
May as well. Like, my God, Star Trek games are so rare. Let me tell you, people talk about no games. Do you know what has no games? Star Trek. Like, on the 360, not even kidding, we got 2 Star Trek games. That was Star Trek Legacy and Star Trek the movie, the video game. That was it, right? This past generation, Xbox One and PlayStation 4, we got 2. We got Star Trek Resurgence and we got Star Trek Online. And that MMO has hilariously bad controls. Oh yeah, and we got Star Trek Prodigy Supernova. But again, that game is made for 2-year-olds. There's no challenge in it whatsoever. Waste of £7. But yeah, the industry's changing. What was I saying? We'll just be along for the ride, see what happens. We'll talk about the Final Fantasy stuff quickly. Earlier on the show, we talked about how Activision games for Game Pass and Xbox, we just don't know when it's happening. It's like, how long is a piece of string? Nobody knows. It's been the same for, Final Fantasy. Ever since Final Fantasy VII Remake was first announced in whatever year it was, it's kind of been up in the air if these games would ever come to Xbox. And, originally, if you'd asked me and Logan like 3 years ago, we would say Snowball's chance in hell. Not happening. But as time has gone on, Xbox has been more friendly with Japanese developers and publishers. Square Enix comes out and says, hey, they want to make multi-platform games. They want to bring some older games to Xbox in the future. You have the creative director of Final Fantasy 16 talking about how they want to bring it to Xbox but can't talk about it yet. Very specific phrasing on that. And you know what? They bring over Final Fantasy 14 to Xbox after people port begging for years for it. And all in all, it looks like Microsoft is in a better state than ever with Square Enix, which is a good thing to say because for the longest time, you would assume that Square Enix hated Microsoft. Just the way they kind of... just the way they kind of abandoned the platform. So even though it does look like things are moving forward, we just don't know officially with, dates. Anyway, move back 3 months ago, basically from people that have had, considerably good track records when it comes to, leaks. They said that Final Fantasy games are coming to Xbox this year. 16 soonish, 7 later this year, and Final Fantasy 7 Rebirth coming to Xbox next year. Very realistic time frame. But there's nothing been announced. And my take for the longest time was like, hey, Final Fantasy games will be announced for Xbox during a developer direct. A partner preview, third party partner preview, and they haven't done that this year. I think it's been 2 years in a row in March where we've had a partner preview by Microsoft, and they haven't done one this year. So it's like, when are these games going to be announced? And my ongoing theory for a while is that the 7 remake will be announced for the Nintendo Switch at their event, and then you're going to have it announced for Xbox maybe an hour later on social media. And I just wanted to talk about this because the Switch event is next week. It's going to be super cool, and I 100% believe that Final Fantasy VII Remake is going to be announced there. Logan, does it sound like I'm smoking something, or do you think I maybe have a point?
I think you have a point because, say that, they're fully committed to multi-plat going forward. Just keeping it 100, Switch 2 is a bigger announcement reveal place. The reveal of this console that's going to sell unholy numbers. Is the best place to get the most eyeballs is to announce it there. And then a little while later go, oh yeah, by the way, also Xbox. And then everybody gets to celebrate that's in, the back of the room that are playing on Xbox. So to me that makes total sense. I could totally see it being revealed there along with, the rumored Oblivion remake. I remember at the original Switch reveal, they had Elder Scrolls Blades and Skyrim and some other things associated with that as well. And Doom got ported to the Switch and stuff. So Bethesda has a relationship with them that predates Xbox acquisition. So to me, it seems like the Switch event at the very least will be something worth watching if you like gaming in general. And if you're an Xbox fan, I wouldn't be surprised if there's some things there.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen in certain Nintendo Directs in the past that, a game will be announced at their showcase and then 10 minutes later it's announced on Twitter. So I think that's...
GoldenEye.
Yeah, GoldenEye. I believe the Legacy of Kain collection was announced on the Nintendo showcase. A bunch of Tomb Raider stuff as well. So it's happened before. It'll probably happen again. But yeah, there's still a lot of year left. And I think those games are going to do well on Xbox. I think just pricing and timing come to mind because look, Death Stranding, the game where you walk miles and carry boxes, that game was #1 on the Xbox store, and that goes by revenue. It's because it was £17. A lot of people heard about this game, and if you look at the reviews on Xbox at the minute, it is if I remember correctly, it's the 70th highest rated game on Xbox. And it's a game where you basically deliver parcels and turn the internet back on for people. So, like, I think the Final Fantasy VII remake being a household name, essentially, yeah, it should be fine. And the thing is, I think 16 will do well on Xbox as well because there isn't not really any games like that on Xbox that I can think of. That's more of an action-orientated Final Fantasy game. But yeah, I think
I
it's
think
good.
Ben Starr helped with that as well because he's in Expedition 33, which is going to debut in Game Pass, and he's a well-liked actor, so I think him being associated will help as well.
Yeah, I think Ben Starr's basically like he may as well just do all the marketing for that game because he's a funny guy. Clearly knows what he's talking about. And speaking of Ben Starr, it is nice to have a voice actor actually talk about gaming in a positive light because I'm not of the mind that I think a voice actor needs to be a fan of video games. I just want them to do a good job. But with Ben Starr, like he's clearly a fan of Final Fantasy. Whenever he talks about it, like he knows what he's talking about. And I think seeing that kind of passion from an actor, I think that's why he's so relatable. But who knows? Maybe they'll get Ben Starr to do the announcement. But yeah, Ben Starr.
It wouldn't surprise me.
Yeah,
he did great with the Balatro stuff.
Yeah, he's probably going to be the new like Nolan North, being basically everything. But yeah, but honestly, it looks like it's going to be a good time to be a gamer. This year is absolutely stacked, and one of the reasons why I thought a partner preview was going to happen this month, man, there's so many games that are still coming this year that don't have release dates. There's a ton of games coming this year that literally haven't even been announced yet. I mean, we've talked about this before. The Elder Scrolls Oblivion remake isn't this little rumor people have made up. Like it literally leaked by Microsoft. I wonder if that
in court document.
Yeah, I wonder if that person still has a job. By the way.
Oh, they might have a job elsewhere.
Yeah. Like the janitor at Toys R Us. But like that game leaked, it's real. So like if that does release by its apparent July release date, like they have to announce it fairly soon. I do hope it's something we will actually see a physical edition of, because why not? Do you know what would be funny if that remake gets announced this year and you still have to pay for the horse armor?
Oh, I would totally not put it past Todd to do that just to be funny and to troll everybody. It's like, oh, y'all thought this was the end of gaming and the fall of modern society? Have you seen microtransactions today? Horse armor's nothing.
Yeah, I mean, who knows? They maybe put some like new horse armor in there as well, because they could technically
One that actually protects the horse this time.
Yeah, that was weird how that horse armor doesn't do anything for your horse whatsoever. Like you can literally
It looked cool.
Yeah, it looked good, but like that horse can still die. So yeah. But yeah, it's going to be a good year for video games. What can I say? Logan, have you got anything else to go over before we close out the show?
No, just that I'm excited for the Switch 2 event. Night Dive has some great projects on the work that I'm excited about. Starting this Thursday with I Have No Mouth, Yet I Must Scream, the remake of that remaster, like an old point and click adventure from the LucasArts era. It is basically like one of the darkest yet comedic, choose your own adventures ever written and made, adapted from a pen and paper game. So I'm excited for that and excited to see what happens next week. And please, Jason and BC team, please, the bat signal is on.
Yeah, I mean, you know what? We'll talk about this because we still have a few things we can go over. So, Logan, are you familiar with a certain person on Twitter called Grums?
Oh yes, I am. I am familiar with the Bus Man. Yes.
Yeah, so Grums, for people that don't know, is an ex-developer who has had certain projects really or kind of in development over the past few years that have never came to light, and if they have, they've kind of just been a mess or look like scams. It turns out the Assassin's Creed Twitter account ratioed him on Twitter.
Oh yeah, I just saw that. It was a total KO annihilation, like delete your profile and don't come back kind of ratio.
Yeah, so for people that don't know, I don't do Twitter much. Oh yeah, and the Assassin's Creed Twitter account also the they ratioed Elon Musk.
Woo! That's wild. Mm.
Yeah, so yeah, Grums posted a picture online of Assassin's Creed isn't the hit Ubisoft desperately needs, analyst says, and the Assassin's Creed Twitter account replies to Grums, "Our game is out." Grums has had a
Our game is actually out.
yeah,
Oh,
like Grum's game has been in development for development hell for years, and it looks like it's a scam basically. So oof. I mean, and getting Elon as well. Like whoever's running the Assassin's Creed Twitter account the past week or so, give them a raise because that is hilarious. And like, uh, I blocked Grums, maybe I want to say like 6 or 7 months ago.
yeah, I did too.
Yeah, that guy's clearly clearly just up for attention. And in fact, I maybe don't believe that like he actually believes all the stuff he writes. I think it's just like, hey, it gets attention. People post about it. Like, hell, we talking about it right now, but then again, we don't really normally talk about this stuff. But
The grifters. Yeah.
yeah, the grifter thing. We're talking about this before with the Assassin's Creed thing. Any game is a target. It doesn't matter what it's about. Like any game. I've seen people rage bait over the new Doom game. All you do in the new Doom game is shoot bad guys. That's all you do. Demons with floaty heads. Maybe they shoot fire at you. But that's all you do in that game. Literally everything. You ride a
They were
dragon.
mad about a difficulty slider on Doom.
Yeah, like, oh god. That's another thing I've seen these people get angry about. Difficulty modes. Like, I don't care if a game has difficulty. That has always been one of the most bizarre things I've noticed. That people get angry about difficulty sliders. Like, I really do. Like, if this was like, maybe are you changing the IP? Are you going back on some law stuff? It's like, no, you're giving people difficulty sliders, and this angers people. Like, let me tell you, Doom 2016 is a game I played on. I think it was the difficulty mode after hard. I think it was called like Ultra Nightmare difficulty. And I thought it was a very enjoyable experience. But do you know what happened when Eternal came out? I got my behind absolutely handed to me on hard mode. Absolutely handed to me. To the point where I had to put it on normal. Like, Eternal was so much more difficult because of the verticality, the enemies firing more projectiles, all that stuff. Damage over time with the acid stuff. Like, that game was excruciatingly difficult on hard. And like, it doesn't really bother me. Like, if someone plays a game on normal, easy, who cares? Who cares? It's something people. Honestly, I think it's like projecting when people get angry about that stuff. No one's forcing you to play on easy.
Yeah, it's like little man syndrome. It's like, are you really that insecure about something if somebody plays it on easy versus legendary? Like, I do take it as a source of pride beating all the Halos on Legendary and like some of these other games on higher difficulties because, skill and whatever. But I have absolutely zero qualms with somebody who just wants a fun, enjoyable experience, no stressors. Just, dude, I work an 8 to 5 shift. I want to come home and just blast some things mindlessly and have a power trip and have fun. Zero problems. Have at it, buddy. I'm happy for you.
Yeah, I mean, like I've talked about this before. I've no shame in it. Like Persona, I play Persona on easy. Like, I really don't care. I play those games because I like the story. And honestly, I'm kind of bad at the combat for some reason. But like Persona 4, like I'm getting back into Persona 4, and I love Persona 4, and I have no intention of playing that game to a point where I'm going to be like, concerned about if I'm going to lose. Right? I just want to be there for the story.
You
Speaking of,
don't want it taking 400 hours.
yeah, do you know what I think? What I think did that for me when it comes to JRPGs? I think it's because when Final Fantasy X came out, like that's one of my favorite games of all time. That game's boss battles stupidly exhausting, right? Like I'm
The tentacle thing. Yeah.
oh god. So for people that don't know, I like to rant about this at every given opportunity. So there's a boss fight in Final Fantasy X where you're on this ship, going through the ocean, going to the next island for the next cutscene, and then a fin pops out of the side of the ship, and then this belongs to this big fish thing called Sin, and you beat this fin. It's a terrible boss fight. It's super hard, and then the fin goes back into the water, and you wipe the sweat off your head. You pause the game because you want to breathe, and then this fin starts coming out of the water on the opposite side of the ship, which means you have to do the same boss fight twice in a row without a checkpoint. I actually stormed out the house. Like, stormed out the house angry because they did that to me, right? And I think ever since I was put through that, like, I'm kind of like, as much as I love JRPGs, like, there's always some boss battle like that traumatizes me for life, right? I remember Lost Odyssey with the damn blue worm. The first major boss after the tutorial is the hardest boss in the entire game. Like, what the hell were they thinking? So, like, if developers want to make remasters of games and put difficulty modes on, you know what? I'll say it out loud. I will play them on easy. I don't care. I play shooters on hard. I will definitely play these JRPGs on easy because I really don't care. I'm sure someone will clip that or get angry about it, but I don't care. Life's too short to be angry over video games. Anyway,
Jamie's a noob.
I mean, hey, do you know what's funny? I post footage on social media every day about games I play, and I still get replies on posts saying you don't play games. I'm like, what the hell do you want me to do at this point? I can't prove that I'm playing these games. Like, it happened the other day. I posted a clip of Avowed, I think, just Avowed Combat, and I had replies going, "You don't actually play video games." Like, what the hell am I doing then? I'm not Mystic Meg doing fortune telling. Like, oh god, I could rant all day about this.
You
stuff.
need to have like an episode of. You remember Cribs from MTV? It's like, welcome to Jamie's crib, and it's like, see, these are my games I own, and then you put in a game, and you're like, see, this is the game I'm playing because I play games.
I mean,
Oh
I probably will at some point, but people just notice I'll have an obscene amount of toys for my cat. But yeah, everyone's been awesome today in chat. Technical issues aside, and the time zone thing with the clocks going forward hasn't happened yet in the UK. So as of next week's show, worldwide, the show will be on at the exact same time it's normally on, which is bloody great for me. And everyone in the UK, and it's always the same in the US. But yes, we're back for a new episode of All Things Xbox podcast next week, same time as usual. Now I'm trying to get out a video by the next episode, but for people that don't know, I don't know how you wouldn't know this. I seem to talk about it a lot. I've had bronchitis for like 4 months, and sometimes I don't have the ability to speak or even breathe sometimes. So the videos I put out every month, I haven't been able to put out. I'm getting back into it this month. So if you want to support the channel, watch those videos. It really helps the channel grow. And I have a new video maybe coming out in the next 2 days. It took a while making, but I think people like it. Our social links in the description down below. And if I can, depending on what the streaming situation's like, I might live stream the Nintendo showcase. Not entirely sure. I'll post about all that stuff next week on the show anyway. Anyway, we're back next week. Hope everyone has a good day. We're out, everybody.